Hello and welcome back to McClaren Performance. As we know, psychology is such an important part of our performances. It really makes a big impact on it. So with that, what is the best way to think about performance to really get the best out of yourself? As I work with more athletes and more teams about psychology, trying to get them really mentally right for their performance, I find myself trying to think of ways to explain it best. What is that best way of thinking? What's that metaphor? What's that example? What's that blueprint really to think about performance to really get the best out of yourself? I think about it quite a lot and having to be somewhat creative with that because there's such complex aspects to performance, but also complex aspects to how we think as well. You can go really detailed into that, but personally I think it's not really that complicated. In fact, it's something I've talked about before. I think it's something that really rings true is simplicity is key. It's about simplicity in mind and simplicity in action. That means therefore good, consistent and simple results as well. It's that feedback loop between mind, action, result, and it starts with how you think, and from there it feeds into your results. It's really as simple as that. It's with one client in particular that's made me think about that a little bit more and think about how it doesn't really need to be so complicated, but with that, what is it? What is that foundation? What is that idea, that central idea that an athlete, a person, anybody can really gravitate towards to improve their performance? First off, let's put the mind on a bit of a scale. So on one end of the scale, you could be entirely accepting of everything that happens in a performance. Win, lose, make a mistake, do really well, whatever. That's fine. I'm not too fussed about anything. I'm not going to react. I'm going to be accepting everything. That's something that psychologists teach quite a lot, to be accepting of things, to accept situations so you can carry on and move forward. But talking to one client, saying about how they accepted so many mistakes and accepted things going wrong, that they walk away from the game and they think, oh, I've lost and I've accepted everything that's happened and it hasn't helped at all. And that's almost like one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that absolute desire to control absolutely everything, and that is just as deadly as the other end of the scale, because if you try and control everything that you can, you gain a lot of frustration from that. You try too hard. So there's these two opposite ends of the scale, and with that I think really there's this middle ground, what every athlete should try and reach, this balance between the two, of not fully accepting everything that happens, but not trying to fully control and win every little thing either. If anybody really wants to understand the science behind that, in psychology it's something that we call the flow state, whereby in this certain level between the challenge that you are facing, but also this internal skill that you have, in between those two things, you can find yourself in this flow state. And being in flow state, being in the zone, that is just that optimal level of performance. People talk about time slowing down, not consciously thinking, but subconsciously, instinctively thinking about your performance, being really in the moment and performing at your best. It's probably what, as a psychologist, you are trying to get your athlete to be in. You want them to be in the zone as much as possible. For me, the other way to talk about challenge level and skill level is really to talk about the external and the internal, the uncontrollables and the controllables. In a game, the result, referees' decisions, people making choices in the game that aren't your own, that's out of your control. Certain things that are in your control, your performance, the way that you think, things that you do, the way you react to situations, that is the external and the internal. I find myself more and more with athletes, with teams, talking about balance. Really always this balance between these two extremes, these two ends. Acceptance, wanting to control everything, external, internal, challenge, skill. There's this middle line all the time that people should be aiming to be in. But what does that actually look like practically for yourself, for myself, for anyone doing anything? What is it to think in that middle ground, down that middle line? Well, for me, everything at its best, a game, a training session, an individual's performance, whatever it is, for me the term controlled chaos is exactly what I think of that. Controlled chaos is key for performing at your best. Both control and chaos, both the external and the internal, working together. If you can think of any time in your life or in your performance or anything where you felt like you're really in the zone, when you're really into something, where you're doing really well on a winning streak, whatever it is, I believe there's some aspect of that controlled chaos within that. Let's say a football pitch, or the game of football itself, it has that aspect of control with regards to the dimension of the pitch, the rules of the game, the positions that people are in, the tactics that are being told by the coach for the players to do. There is an aspect of control within that, but that is also balanced with an aspect of chaos, a player being able to be creative and do whatever they want. When a player is in the zone, they have a framework, a structure around them, but they also have their own, what we call free will. They have their own control, they have their own choices that they can make, that freedom, that creativity to be on the pitch. It's like an artist painting on a canvas. You have the structure of the canvas itself, you have the paint, you have the colours, you have all these restrictions, but within that you also have that creativity. And you can find that's why artists are so zoned in on what they're doing, why you might be so zoned in doing absolutely anything else as well. Anything that has both that balance of control and chaos. If you've ever seen that Chinese symbol of yin and yang, life really needs to be lived in that middle line in between the two. That is where you are in the zone. That is where you're at your best performance. That is also the best way of living as well, because that's very much what life is. That is what living is. It is controlling what you can control despite all the external things happening around you, and not making it so much a fight, but also not letting so much of what's happening around you affect you also. It is a balance between the two, and to master that balance, I believe, is the way to move forward in life, in performance, in anything. I work a lot in golf, and if anything exemplifies life and how it's lived, it's definitely golf. More that sport than anything else. Every golfer I know who wants to be very good at what they do, they know what they want to control. They go onto the course, they know what they want to score, they know what handicap they are, they know what handicap they need to go down to. All the controllables, they absolutely have an understanding of. The problem is that when you go on the course and you miss that shot, you make that mistake, you get thrown into the chaos of the game, that is where that golfer is made. Not in what they are trying to control, but in the things that go wrong and how they react to it. And that's very much true of life, of performance, in any sport really. We can all plan and think and control, but when we are faced with chaos, can we react? Can we embrace it? Can we work with it? So performance isn't fighting the world around you, but it's also not letting the world around you shove you around, tell you what to do, and you just accepting it. There's a middle ground, and that's really what I call a dance. Performance for me is a dance. It's a dance with the external world. It's a dance with what's happening around you. It's being able to react and respond to that. If you're dancing with somebody and they decide to move one way, let's say, you wouldn't fight them and pull them the other way. At the same time, you wouldn't let them carry you away also. What you do is you find that middle ground. If someone goes that way, okay, that's interesting, I'm going to go this way. And they might do something else, and you work together, you get into a bit of a flow. And I think that's what being in the zone is. I think that's what top performance is. I think that's the way you have to think about performance going into anything. Not trying to control everything that's going on, not trying to control the dance and do everything for the person you're with, but collaborate with that person, collaborate with what's happening around you, collaborate with the mistakes that are happening around you, the things that go right, the things that go wrong, and react well to it, embrace it, and enjoy it, and realize that is a part of life, a part of performance, and it's something that also happens to everybody as well. They all have to deal with these external things. The more aware you become of the external world, the more you learn and understand to work with it, that'll be better off for your performance, it'll be better off for your life as well. I start thinking about that with everything I do also, and not me just being by myself, taking on the world in what career I have, whatever it is, but it's a collaboration with everything that happens, and it's a collaboration of things going right, things going wrong, reacting to that, finding the best ways to deal with it and work with it. That is probably the best way to determine someone's success, more so than how talented they are. I find that when I work with golfers also, I find it when I look at football players as well, their ability to react and be consistent and work well with things and situations they are thrown into, I think is a much better predictor of success than any sort of talent or anything else they have. So yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Yeah, not a football episode today. I think I'm going to start switching things up a bit. I miss talking about psychology, and I want to do more of that, as well as talking about football and things that are going on. It's the international break as well, and nothing's really happening at all. But going forward, I do want to split this podcast more into two parts, whereby episodes like this and also getting guests on would be a show called The Source of Success, and then anything about football or, you know, anything really around that, would be Football on My Mind. And that is really two separate, distinct kind of shows, because I want to do more stuff just talking about psychology, whether it be football, golf, or any other sport, or life itself as well, because I think I got a lot to say about that. I know it's not going to be as popular, but to be fair, it really helps me in the work I'm doing, just to get ideas like this one I've talked about today and get it down into something and summarize it really well, then I can just use it really well in the future also. But yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Controlled Chaos, it's a dance with reality, and I'll see you again next week.